See, that's.
Well, possibility.
I know Joe did accept the meeting for this morning, so I imagine he's gonna join, but I don't know for sure.
I missed the director's meeting.
Oh, it was a good one.
I know I had a different thing come up at my annual physical actually, so
Yeah, that's
I want to
important.
reschedule that.
I'll get you
Okay.
the recording yet this week in case you wanna
I definitely wanted to
watch it.
I'm just trying to find my original email to you all that had the right version of the survey. So I'm just trying to still pull that up. I know we're recording, so I think we can get started, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we can. You want me to kick us off and then I'll throw it over to you?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
I'll start sharing the agenda.
Welcome, everyone, to our evaluation committee meeting, April 1st. I'm on the lookout for pranks, Caitlin.
Nothing.
Okay, so today we're gonna be talking about local evaluation. We're gonna talk about the statewide survey, I think, which is great. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Caitlin Schmidt.
Sounds great. Thank you everyone for joining. I don't have many evaluation reminders of like deadlines upcoming and things like that. We're in that kind of season of where we're collecting all the data for our upcoming reporting cycle. Our last outcomes window of APR is passed, the statewide survey was passed. I don't know if we ever heard on, like I said, I've missed a director's meeting or two in the past, so hopefully we got 100% in for those outcomes in APR. Heidi did
Yes,
mention.
we did. We did,
Okay.
Caitlin. We got 100% for the APR. Tim and Joe were both on and they were grateful for that.
Awesome. And then also Heidi had mentioned as we were kind of getting started, the statewide survey was really difficult, I think, to kind of get some of our grantees in
Yeah,
time.
and I don't know if that had to do just with some inconsistency with directors meetings and stuff with Vic leaving and with some new grantees not really getting as much support as in previous years just because of that transition and all that kind of jazz. But yeah, now we did end up getting 100% statewide eval in, but it took some follow-ups.
Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, that's the topic for our April meeting typically, is to having finished that kind of cycle of completing those as everyone has done, reviewing what things stood out as maybe some of those challenges and formulating your responses or just small revisions that provide clarity. I know I sent out a version that had just a few of my notes on some things. So I think I'll switch my screen to start sharing that, and everyone, we can kind of just go through page by page and have people chime in. Hopefully you had some maybe comments prepared ahead of time as well, because a few pages long. Okay, is everyone seeing kind of a Word document of the questions now? Yeah. So I think this first program information pieces of names and things, those are straightforward and I think help understand who's completed to know the completion rate of the survey. And then right away I did pause at this attendance question in the 30 days. I think that was it was definitely our former way of thinking about attendance and meeting that best practice threshold of 30 days. And so I think it's more of calling to the question of, is that still helpful and different distinction to know beyond the hour bands that we are collecting for the other reporting. So Heidi, you unmuted. I can pause if you have thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it should reflect what's being collected in APR. But that to me, like you should be able just to take whatever information that you put in the APR and just plop it right into this without, having to do a lot of reconfiguring, but
And maybe that's helpful to like pause for a moment and like zoom. I live next to a train track, so there is a train going by my house. If anyone can hear that, sorry. Pause and zoom out. Like the purpose of this survey is to then be able to more easily collectively report out as an entire state. Okay.
right.
Okay. Because I know that we obviously each do the full reports and local evaluation APR, but this is the way that it gets compiled.
Yeah, I think I mean, I know that was the intention when Vic started this years ago, was that the APR reporting is it's really, really difficult for the state to get that data then as a collective, for the state and be able to report it out. So this was, yes, it's redundant and it's an additional piece, but it was the opportunity for our state evaluators to be able to use this data and do a nice showcase for the state.
Okay. I think that's just helpful to rehash a little bit to make sure we all understand the function, because I think there's some things in here that are different than the questions that we get to, report on. For the purposes of filling out a more complete picture. But in this case, the data should be reflecting the APR and local evaluation. So that would be suggestion, is that those reflect the hour bands versus 30 days.
That also has effect on questions 10 and 11.
Right. Yes. Great point, Lynn. Thank you. So I'm not sure visually what that would look like, other than probably two separate tables in general.
The way that I answered this question is I looked at our time bands and figured out which one was 30 days and used that truthfully.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So if you still want to know how many were less than 30 days, then I think that needs to reflect whatever those time bands look like.
And I think I'm hearing that 30 days isn't necessarily
right
anymore, so that it should reflect, which is just a little bit more complicated. Then it won't be a single text box. It'll have to be more than likely some kind of similar table. I don't know what the SurveyMonkey tool off the top of my head. I've worked in SurveyMonkey, but I don't know what.
Yeah. And we don't have the research version of SurveyMonkey, so we do have some limitations, but we can poke around in it, and try to figure out what the best way to respond to that would be.
Or are you saying, Lynn, even just determining which benchmark within those hour bands is the one that we care most about, which I don't know that we've discussed it in that manner before.
Right. And I guess my question is, do we care? Because if we don't care, then 10 and 11 don't matter.
Right.
9 would just say provide an unduplicated number of students for each time period, include all time bands, which would make a reference to the APR. But if we do want to know how many attended a short amount of time and how many attended more, then it's a matter of rewording those questions to get the information for those time bands, which we've already reported in the APR.
From what you know on how we are using that data, Heidi, is there a preference? Like, are we still trying to break?
Well, I think right now it's all kind of, we're starting fresh with what we want, with what Joe would want. And at this point, my my experience with Joe up till now has been very much like, let's tell him what we think and like what our expert opinions are. And he's been very open to working on, working within those parameters. So I think if we said like, if you guys said as a committee, like, this is what really would make sense for us. And when we're reporting as a state, this is what would, reflect what we're sending the feds, blah, 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 whatever. I think he would be open to that. Now, I don't know how we would figure that. I'm not privy to seeing the APR, so I don't know exactly what you guys are submitting. But they're guessing that there's three time bands or something like that, or
6,
More,
7.
yeah.
geez.
It's the same as what's in the local eval.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's those time bands
Okay.
that are in the
Well,
local evaluation. So
I think that, personally, if I was a grantee, I would want this to look the same as what I'm already putting in. If I've collected data in my own spreadsheet, or if I'm using the spreadsheet that
Right.
the evaluation committee has given me to collect data, then I want to just be able to pull that out and put my numbers in.
right.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference in how the data is being presented now is that there is no like major benchmark of saying if you're below this, you're not attending at a rate
On a
or
regular basis, right?
there's no regular
Okay.
Right.
benchmark
And I
instituted.
think when that 30 days, that came from the feds. There was
Yeah.
some study done that said, if you attend more than 30 days, you're going to get a greater benefit.
Yep.
And I haven't seen anything recently that moves that benchmark, gives us a new one, unless someone else has.
No, I haven't.
But I would feel like it would almost, I would think it would need to be the complete hour bands and not us
Yep.
just picking one, because then it feels a little bit arbitrary to be saying, I mean,
Yes.
of course, we could equate it to the 30 days, but like you said,
Right.
you reported it as, but I think
Right.
it just makes sense to keep it complete as we do in our APR.
And for me, I understand. So collecting the data, when you collect this through SurveyMonkey, you can do all kinds of things already with the data as it's presented to you. So I also understand requesting this 3 times. The APR, the feds need it, local evaluation is local
Right.
evaluation. And this means that you can manipulate the data.
Right.
easily.
It all gets entered in one place without you having
Right.
to manually do that. Mhm.
Exactly.
So
But the goal really is to make it seamless for the grantee, though. So we shouldn't be asking 3 different ways for 3,
Right.
3 different types of.
right. And I guess what I'm saying, I think separating things out by the time bands, if we're already doing that for the other 2 reporting, then I think it's good data to have at the state level. And for whoever's manipulating it, make it easily manipulated. So I guess I made a comment earlier about, do we just take 10 and 11 out? And I would not necessarily suggest that. I would suggest adding the time bands in.
So it's just either gonna be a list of further question. I think it's just a matter of playing around in SurveyMonkey to figure out if there's a matrix that keeps it still question number 10 and it's all contained.
Right.
Or it has to get a little bit broken down each individual question. So I'm just trying to put notes, but I can explore that beyond this too. We have a paid subscription to SurveyMonkey too. Obviously, I don't have access to the actual survey in there, but I can just play around and be helpful and kind of figuring out which format will work to represent the hourly bands.
Yeah, and Caitlin, we could always get on together at some point and just share screens and.
Yeah. And I think all of these other notes are still relevant to that. I think the only other difference is I don't know the prevalence of any grantees that have combined school year and summer grants. I just thought that was interesting. We're not in that boat, but does that mess anyone's reporting or response to this question by having it separated as school year, summer? Obviously, those are trackable data points, but if your grant is to have a grant attendance goal of 100 students, is it set up in a way that 30 students are from summer, 70 are from school? Like, I don't know if I'm trying to solve a non-issue, I don't know. But I was curious if these numbers are broken down, then it might not necessarily match APR, which APR and local evaluation are also split up into summer and school year. So maybe I am creating a non-issue.
Well, I think I remember Tim saying something about they're changing the APR, the way that they're gonna be collecting that summer and school year data or something. So we may just, I think maybe we just may have to wait and see
Wait and see.
what they want, but I still see a benefit for Iowa to be able to say, this is how many kids we serve in the summer.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Makes sense. I think it would just be only if I think people are expressing that the way that their grants are formatted, like I
Mhm.
wouldn't, it's just maybe something to keep an eye on if there's any unique grants, but I don't think it's reflecting a change necessarily unless we do need it to change in order to match the other systems of reporting.
Mhm. Mhm.
I put, not sure if we need this related to the NA option, but I know that that's probably there just to, I don't know if they would complete the survey at all if they're in the year in which they're not yet reporting the local evaluation, unless this is a way to get their data early, but they wouldn't be. It just trips.
Well, we still want to collect we still want to collect other information. So I think that's fine to leave that
No.
yeah.
Okay, so that was a good discussion on our first few questions. I think I didn't have many further, so I'm gonna just kind of go chunk by chunk and just pause as people might have their own comments. Next, beyond some of those first attendance, there's a wait list question. I think that makes sense. I don't know if you choose yes or no, if there used to be a question maybe that had you indicate a number, but I think this might just be a yes, no, now. Fees. I feel like this got really streamlined based on how it used to be asked, so that's probably a helpful change. Transportation. Lots of options. I think covers the bases. Snacks and meals. I have one comment here. So just a option to say beyond, if you're not eligible and no, you didn't know about this program, there could be no, choose not to participate. I don't know if that might not be best practice, but
Right.
that was an option that occurred to me that is not available.
Mhm.
Oh, this is just not a very critical comment, but in those data mindset of when we think about how we have our data organized, this is a question that might be easier to have
Up at the top.
up at the top when you're over like these demographics. You have your enrollment data
Yeah.
up, you might be in that more state of mind to be referring to what you've reported in the past.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I think staff and professional development. These are straightforward as well from how they've been in the past, but maybe a little bit more simplified. So total number of staff, AmeriCorps, breaking down by education level. Staff, and then I have a lot of comments of me noting what has changed, not necessarily in suggestion that they should be re-added back in. It was just more of my observations. And something that I would have checked off as, yes, we've done this in the past, but if it's not information that's relevant in what we need to share out, that's totally fine to keep these simplified. So some of the more bucket of required professional development, CPR, mandatory child abuse reporting, that's maybe not a item that you are needing to report on, Heidi, so.
Well, I just wonder if, this is just a wondering, I don't know, but you know, we do collect that professional development document from every grantee where
And
they're
that's one of the
saying
categories.
exactly what they've done. I'm wondering if that it would be sufficient. If do we need this? I wonder. Because I don't know if I think this would be a question for Ron and Rusty. Like, hey, is this data about PD something that you're using, you know, to report on when we're already collecting it with those professional development reports from each grantee, you know, and the local ballot. But I think, I mean, it's not difficult to leave it in. I just don't know if it's, are they really using it?
And I haven't compared, are these the categories from that document?
Yeah, but I don't think it's exhaustive.
And I think there's a little bit of a difference. I mean, because I do remember that this kind of
Right.
fire training is one, and then there's more, I think there's more general buckets like in state and out of state. Or
Yeah.
something like that.
Conferences, yeah.
Yeah. That don't really tell you about
Right.
the content.
Right.
So I think it would be a question for Ron and Rusty, which document do they use?
Mhm.
And then if it's not this one, take it out of here, or at the very least, make it match that document.
Yeah. Well, and it might be a question for Joe too. You know, he may want grantees to continue to fill those
Right.
grantee documents out, or he might say, you know, I really would just prefer to have it in this one annual survey. And that's because these aren't federal requirements that we're doing. These are state documents.
Writing a note. Okay, I think that might be true for the reporting of what has been done, but then I think there's after these initial questions more geared towards that, yeah, what professional development needs do you have that aren't being met? That's a good opportunity, but
Right.
Right.
and then I guess here's the question of the template.
And then there's the template, right? Okay.
Okay, this is just more information will look great. Other ways meeting needs of families and students. And then this, I think these all kind of run along a similar theme of just how program delivery is done. Oh, I wrote a note here, so I gotta read what the question is. So how does your 21st program incorporate academics enrichment with the goal of increasing student achievement? And then I think I just, whatever my state of mind I was in when I was making these notes might be different than the state of mind I'm in right now. Because I was just thinking like clarity on what does it mean for volunteer support, community partner support in addressing student achievement, which I could probably make that link now of volunteers helping. I mean, there's tutoring and there's other things on here, but
Right.
any further notes on?
And do they need to be separate? I mean, can it be community partner / volunteer support for academics?
Right.
Do we need to know? Because some community partners are volunteers, some of them discounted rate, some of them.
Yeah. And I'm questioning the okay, volunteer support for academic needs, community support for academic needs, but wouldn't those also fall in probably to homework help or tutoring or
I think
Right.
that
those other categories? Maybe not.
I would say that I would consider what our use of volunteers is kind of that general academic, like
General academic
general,
support, like reading
Yeah.
with kids, right? That kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
or enrichment. We kind of use them both.
Mhm.
Those things. So
Yeah.
so you know. I'm just leaving these kind of questions open-ended, and I think further
Disney.
decision making can be done as well outside of this meeting. Okay, then types of academic supports are listed. And then kind of vaguely remember what I was thinking with this one is for general academic support, all the one-to-one, I didn't know if that fit within that bucket, but I could see it still making sense. And then I think there's targeted below that has all the one-to-one. So I didn't know if it made sense to be within both general and targeted. I don't know if anyone else has thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Caitlin.
And then general kind of subjects. Attendance, motivators. Okay, how does your 21st century site encourage community participation? So I think I was trying to think of what that looks like for the community to engage within the program and didn't know if programming outside of that for parents made sense, but again, I think anything can be made a case for, but that one stood out to me. And then number 43 with peers and or bullying, I just thought that I know that that's one angle into thinking about other social emotional health factors. And I just wondered if there would be an equivalent to that type of question that had more general social emotional, like we have Castle's 8 skills or other things that could be at least maybe helpful to capture of what programs are doing beyond bullying efforts. So I don't have the meat of what that question could look like, but I wondered if anyone else would agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree because I think when this was created, that's what the focus was, and
Right.
we've just gone more broad in a good direction.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, I think you're right, Lynn. I think when this was created, it was a year when it was all about anti-bullying, right? And all the language was that way. And so this could potentially be reworked completely.
If it was a general SEL question with lots of opportunities to share how you're doing that, I think anti-bullying would have a place, but I don't think it would be.
And then I think
Yeah,
our
I would agree with that.
internal survey that goes to grantees can say SEL on it, but then the examples would need to be specific and not say SEL. So then when it's reported, in the statewide evaluation, we need to be thoughtful about the language that we're using and, I don't need to say anything more than that.
That makes sense.
We can say what we're doing without saying a word that's
Jargon.
somehow triggering.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Now into family engagement. These are all
To me,
just-
that parent question that you had up in the communities belongs in family engagement.
and that's a good
I-
point.
That was just,
Yeah. Oh. So these, I had to pause for a second. I'm looking at 46 and 47 to see, looks like the options are the same, but the point is either for student programming or programming for the families. And that is where probably number 47, that previous note about having other resources for families. But- Oh, I know we're towards the end. Okay. So
another question about contact time.
yeah, I know that one's one of the last ones, and that would reflect whatever is shared in.
I feel like these surveys have been recobbled and cobbled so many times that they're
Oh.
just like questions were tacked, you know?
Definitely, yeah. And I think here comes another one related to the 30 days.
Yeah.
which I know for summer programming, that was very much a best practice standard. And
Yeah.
that whole research that was around the 30 days. So I don't know if that's still,
Well, isn't that still the benchmark for being able to report out with the data?
I think 21st still
summer?
requires that, yeah.
Yeah.
I know we don't have a 21st grant right now for summer, but
Right.
And-
But we
yeah,
have
and
so
we don't-
many, we have so many grantees in Iowa that have funds that have not been utilized during the school year that then they are able to do some additional summer programming. And I don't think Joe is requiring that to be 30 days. So we might want to keep some kind of reflection of like, I don't know what it was. I don't know exactly what the question would be, but like, are you doing something during the summer or, you know, and what, and how many days?
So we have never implemented a summer program, never requested it in any grant because we can't meet that 30 days. We can't get staff. It's the biggest thing.
Right.
We've got staff who need the summer off. And so we are just, because we
Right.
use so many school
Yeah,
teachers.
yeah,
Our district would definitely do something in the summer and use this funding
mm-hmm.
if we didn't have to report out on 30 days.
I don't want to speak for him, but
Mhm.
in several conversations, it's been that he is agreeing that he would rather have grantees spend extra funding on serving kids during the summer, even if it's not 30.
Well, I have to tell you, I know Caitlin, you weren't at the meeting, the
Mhm.
director's meeting, but on the agenda is summer programs to spend additional funds. And I truthfully did not listen to the very first part of that because I can't do 30 days, therefore
Yep.
summer programming doesn't affect me.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden I heard doesn't have to be 30 days. And so I have an email ready to go to Joe and
Great.
Tim say, is there other funding or is this 21st century, to get clarification so that I can talk with our superintendent.
Great. And include me on the email, Lynn, because
Okay.
I can help
Okay.
frame it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a small note on 49 and 53, changing you to your.
Ah. Good catch. And I'm gonna make a comment so that it's actually noticeable.
Good catch. That's on me.
Well, like you said, those have probably been in there for quite a while.
Well, you know what? That's true. That's true. That's on Michelle Rich for the oldies in the room.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
There's another one with 54.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
And I think that is the last one.
Right on.
So that was very productive. I appreciate everyone being able to hang out throughout that process.
Yeah, this is great. This is such a great opportunity for us to like get things exactly how we want them, you know?
I don't know how much my computer picks up, but we also have an alarm going off right now.
Nope,
It's
I
not
can't
the-
I can't hear it.
okay.
can't
It's
hear
not
it.
the normal time, so I'm like, what, is there a weather event I actually need to go into my basement for? I don't
Uh-oh,
think so. It's not 12 o'clock like they normally go off on,
right.
but it's the first Tuesday, so then there's always that too.
Oh.
Okay. Moving on, that's really all that we had in the agenda. We'll continue to kind of do these processes of coming together and looking at specific things based on the month by month. I put that in the agenda so that
Love it.
it's more in our forefront. And then there's always, I guess, just the open space if there's any other updates relevant for evaluation or other questions for the group.
Great.
That would be-
Caitlin, I believe, no, you know what? I'm not sure. I think that Billy Stone wanted to be included on these.
Okay,
So I know we need to clean up the attendance,
Attendance.
or the roster.
okay.
So I can help work on that too. And
Take note of who's here right now.
yeah. We got a few people on there I know that no longer work, in 21st century,
Mhm.
and so.
Okay. I use this list, but then I also just have a Gmail list that I usually use, and so it is a process to make sure that they match, so I can take a look at that, make sure I'm not sending it to anyone.
Can I ask you guys a quick question while I have you here? I think I know the answer, but I want to ask grantees that are actually budgeting. We have a state cap for 8% on administrative costs. Is that correct from your purview? Okay,
Yes.
making sure. All right.
Oh, Lynn, you're muted.
I don't know if it's a state cap, but it is a cap.
Yeah, bump that up. Just kidding. All right, I think that might conclude our time.
Terrific. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the recording.